So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming on a wonderful hot Tuesday afternoon, and thank you to Jason for turning on the air conditioning, which will really make a difference. So today we're going to talk about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Wonderful, we have the same book. Were you here last time in June? You weren't, okay. So in June, I started I was just going to head through the sutras. I did a brief one-time sort of overall with the sutras, which is pretty hard to do in a short bit of time, but hit some of the main concepts. And now I'm going through literally all pretty much shloka by shloka, sutra by sutra. So where last we left off, it is on YouTube in case you want to look it up. If you type in Hanuman Maui, Devarshi Stephen Hartman, Patanjali Sutras, you'll get talk number 1. This will be talk number 2. Not to recap, but just to go over. We literally made it from, so Patanjali Sutras, let's just, for the fun of it, how many people are familiar with Patanjali Sutras? Okay. How many people have read Patanjali Sutras? Sort of, kind of. Okay. So again, just a brief recap of why Patanjali Sutras. This book is 196 lines, very short, pithy lines, sutras. A sutra means a thread, so it's often called the unadorned thread of yoga. So 196 lines is not a lot of lines. It's 4 chapters, each chapter basically, 50 sutras, and it's in Sanskrit in its original form. It is very tight, and it is very much a scientific document. What I like about this, and I always say, it blows me away. If somebody gave me the assignment and said, you have to put down the nature of human consciousness and how it works and how to get free, how to attain enlightenment in 200 lines, okay? So like what would you say? How would you do that? And this document has done that. What I really love about it, one of the main things is so often when we read something and we're looking for truth or universal truth, there's often like a viewpoint where you have to sort of go, okay, well, this is it through the Christian viewpoint, or this is it through a Hindu viewpoint, or this is it through some kind of other viewpoint, and you sort of have to weed through that to hear the essence. This is really clean. So it does its best to not have any added words or inflections or projections onto it. It's like, so some people find it really dry because it's just like, here's the nuts and bolts, and then you get to see, I think, some of your own biases just in trying to read it even and understand it, because it gets down to the very simple workings of human consciousness. You'll be very glad to know that the first time we made it through the first 16 sutras. So you're not that far behind, and if you want to go back to the other one, feel free to do that. There's a couple of core foundations that we went over last time that help understand some of the sutras. And one of those understandings is the 5 koshas. So in yoga, they say we have 5 bodies, not one. They're the physical body, your human body. They're the breath body, your energetic body. There's your mental body, your mind. There's witness consciousness, which is not your mind. It's the one that directs attention and directs the mind. And there is the soul. So those 5, we go from infinite, eternal, and whole here to grounded in time and space. Each one has a completely different language, a completely different way of being, and together, we are this multidimensional being. So, of course, in understanding the human self and in getting free, there's exercises and practices for each of those different koshas. So, our body, our physical body, holds habitual, indoctrinated, unconscious patterns. So, we have yoga. Hatha yoga. We have moving in non-habitual ways to break up habitual patterning. They're stuck in the cells. We have the energy body. There's a whole yoga for the energy body. It's called pranayama. You play with your breath and your energy and your chakras, and you experiment with heating up and catharting and cooling down and calming and clearing out all of the habitual, indoctrinated, unconscious patterns that are held in your energy body. Then we have our mind. There's lots of exercises in yoga for the mind, concentration exercises. So dharana, dhyana, samadhi, they're all about being in charge of your mind, watching your thoughts, being in charge of your thoughts. So whole yoga for that. All of those yogas in the body, the breath, and the mind are meant to create witness consciousness. Witness consciousness is non-judgmental, compassionate self-awareness, where you're awake, your light is on, you're directing your attention, you're not being controlled by the habitual, indoctrinated, unconscious patterns. Because if those were running you like they do for most people, you're not free. They're doing you versus you doing them. So this is about getting free. And one of the things that we have to get free from is those patterns that are stuck in the three lower, that doesn't mean bad, but the three more dense koshas. So this process of how to get free, the practices on how to get free are in this book, which I really appreciate. I've said this many times, I'll say it again. One of the many things I love about yoga, as Patanjali lays it out, is often in teaching yoga over the last 50 years, people will say, is yoga a religion? And I like to say no, because the difference is that a religion very clearly says, okay, here's the set of beliefs. If you want to be a part of this religion, you have to believe these beliefs. If you're in, you believe them. If you're not, and then generally there's a group of pretty horrible consequences if you don't believe these beliefs, like you'll burn in hell forever and die in a bad place. So that yoga does not do that. Yoga doesn't actually care what you believe. It doesn't come to you and say, here's what you have to believe in order to get there. It actually wants you to get free of your beliefs, even your most spiritual and wonderful beliefs, so that you are in charge of your beliefs, so you're the believer of your beliefs, so that you see how your beliefs create a reality. And there are helpful beliefs. There are beliefs that are more helpful and more fun to hold, and beliefs that are more harmful. So certainly as we go along there, but ultimately to get to this state of awe and oneness, you got to let go of all beliefs. It's out of the mind. It's beyond even that. So it's learning about the power of the mind. The mind has this ability to create beliefs. Beliefs are very powerful. Most people are their beliefs, which is why we get so touchy when we have, conversations about politics or sex or religion, because it's like, you're challenging my belief, that don't do that, rather than like, well, let's talk about the belief. It's a belief. What's the effect of this belief? It's one of the many possible beliefs that we could hold and take on. So yoga helps us get free of those and choose our beliefs deliberately, choose our actions deliberately. So that's the process that he's going through here. And again, doesn't tell you what to believe, but he says this: if you would like to get free, there's some practices. Purification is necessary first. In Patanjali's Sutras, we'll get there, it says yoga, union, is possible. This state of union, this state of enlightenment, this state of peace is possible. But purification is necessary first. So what is that purification process? And what are we purifying, and how do we do it? And it's not a question of what you believe, it's a question of whether you do it or not. I always say that yoga should just have the Nike slogan, just do it. It doesn't even, just do it. Just do the practices and you'll have an experience, and that experience will begin to shift you and change you. So wonderful that Melanie has this copy also, and she brought it today. So this copy of the sutras, and there's many copies out there now. When I started studying these many years ago, there actually were 3 copies available. So I'm very glad to know that there's many more available now. This copy is by Mukunda Stiles. He's obviously taken the Sanskrit and interpreted it into English, and a lot can happen from Sanskrit to English. And he puts his own slant on it. Many times I really like the way he does it, and many times I don't. But I love But what I really like is there's no commentary. So often if you were to buy a copy of the sutras now, you'd get a sutra and then someone's commentary on it, and a sutra and a commentary. And I really, especially the first time I'm reading scripture, I like to just read it as is, and then I like to read lots of different commentaries. So any questions at all about just Patanjali Sutras, what it's about? And so, yeah.
One time I had this little blue book of the Sutras of Patanjali. Are you familiar with that little blue
I am.
book?
I have that too.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I have the same book, and I'll go home and look at who did it. I don't remember who did it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would like to
Yeah.
maybe get that over.
Yeah, it is. It's about that big. Yeah, I've got it. Yep. So that's a good question. I don't remember who did it. I think it's Eknath Easwaran,
Oh, yeah.
but without the commentary. So we'll see.
Are you familiar with the Sanskrit term for all of the koshas?
Yes.
Like I know there's Anamaya kosha,
Anamaya
Pranamaya kosha.
kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Mano Maya kosha, Vijnana Maya kosha, and Ananda Maya kosha.
Okay, those are the two I didn't know. And which
Yep.
ones are the last two?
So Vijnana is witness consciousness, Vijnana, Vijnana Maya kosha, and the Ananda, which means bliss, the bliss body, the soul, Ananda Maya kosha. So Maya, the Maya kosha, I really like that. Maya means illusion. So, when they say like, oh, it's all Maya, it's all an illusion. We're just living in this illusory matrix. So that's what Maya means. And kosha means a covering, a sheath, a layover. So all of these Maya koshas are illusionary coverings over your soul. So you are your soul, infinite, eternal, and whole, and then you have this illusionary, temporary covering of a body, of a physical body, or an energy body, or an illusionary body of a mental body, or, so that's why the Maya kosha. Yeah. Yeah.
But why,
Marion.
why the Ananda Maya kosha? Because that is the above.
The Anandamaya kosha is your soul, the bliss body.
Why,
So-
why is the word Maya used then? Because that's not the illusion, right?
Well, it actually is, because it's still your individual soul. Because beyond that is the Atman, where we're all one. Okay, but individually, your soul is different than her soul. So, so that too is an illusion of separateness. That your soul is separated from, the person next to you. Yeah, but great question. So, any thoughts? Anything? Any questions about the sutras and why and how it relates to yoga?
Who's written it and when?
Great question. So there's debate about this. So most people believe that Patanjali was an actual person. So what's interesting is, like my name, Devarshi. Devarshi can be a title. It can also be a name. There are lots of people named Devarshi, but Devarshi, Devarishi, means a teacher of God. So it could be a title. So it's funny that my name, Devarshi Stephen Hartman, it's like that would work well both as a title and it's my name. A Patanjali is actually an oracle. It's someone who channels divine energy. So you could be a Patanjali, someone who channels divine wisdom, or you can have the name Patanjali. So there's a debate. Is this, a person named Patanjali, or was this a person like A Course in Miracles who, channeled this material and it came through? In order to be considered scripture in yoga, there's like 6 different checklists that they have to go through in order to be considered scripture, and one of them is that it should be divinely inspired. So. And I don't know why I want to say this, but I just want to say this. So the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, lots of people put a lot of weight in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Anybody know what that is? Yeah. It's basically like, I would say, somebody's old teacher, a yoga teacher training manual. And it has, this is how to do this posture, and this is how to do that posture, and this. And, when I read the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, I think it's a training manual. It's not a holy scripture to me. It's like so glad we have it. Here's this 900-year-old, but it's not God. It's not, it was this person's right way of doing, but a lot of people say, well, because it was in the predicament, that's the only way you should do this pose or do this breath. And it's like, well, that was that person's way. Just to give you an example of the difference between like divinely inspired and scripture or not. So most people believe that Patanjali lived. There seems to be records and that he actually wrote other things, and I'm on that he was an actual person. But he's also yes. This is about 2,000 years old. So relatively new yoga scripture. So, yep, for yoga philosophy. On to what it says. So we last left off at, he gives, let me just say that this first chapter, he's basically telling us where we're going and what the potential is. Okay, in the second chapter, we really get down to the nuts and bolts of how to do it and what the practices are. But in this chapter, he's saying, here's what can happen. Here's what you're going to do. So we're on Sutra. I think we just finished Sutra 16. So we're on Sutra 17, but let's just say, so I want to go back a bit and just give you an idea of what we just handled. So it says here, it's 112, the vacillating waves of perception, okay, which in Sanskrit is called the vrittis, okay, and I love that word. It's the vrittis are the crazy mind, okay, that can think anything. And I like to think of the vrittis as like right now, all the cell waves and internet waves and all information and chat GBT, it's going through the air. Okay, and we can latch on to any vritti that we want. And basically, he says, the vacillating waves of perceptions are stilled through earnest practice and dispassionate non-attachment. Now, I would disagree with him in the wording of this. The vacillating waves of perceptions are never stilled, as far as I'm concerned. You don't turn off the internet, all the craziness. You don't still them. And I think that that's a misnomer and actually misleading for people, because it's like meditating. Go quiet your mind. Well, it's like, quiet my mind. If there was an off switch, we would all turn it off. There is no off switch for the mind, but there is disassociating from it. There is removing yourself from it. There is distancing yourself from it. And when you begin to distance and disassociate from it, the experience is one that it feels stilled. It's not running you. It's still there. But it's a big difference between, am I out there riding the roller coaster, or am I here going, wow, there's a bunch of roller coasters out there and I'm seated, in a place of peace. I could hop on, but I'm not. And then the experience is that all of that feels very still. They haven't been stopped. So I think it's a misnomer to think that you're going to still the vrittis, which means like, wow, I'm going to go out there and try and control all of that. You can't. You're going to disassociate and let go of all control and bring attention back to the self. And then what happens is they feel stilled because you're not associated with them. And it gives these two things. They're stilled through consistent, earnest practice. So your will, you put effort into it, and you do your best to disassociate it, and total non-attachment. I don't care. And I love that, because to me, that is the paradox of living. We have to go, this is what I want, this is where I'm going, this is my will, this is what I want to create. Thy will be done, Lord. It's up to you. I don't care. I'll go anywhere you ask me to do. And those are two completely different personalities. So how do those two live, and how do we steer? If you're totally over here and you're just surrendered, and you're just be here now in without any future, that leads itself to one way. And then if you're totally just a workaholic and trying to control everything, and being the A-type personality, you might get a lot of money, but miss out on any kind of happiness. So it's I just love the image of a sailboat, which is If a sailboat wants to go there, it grabs the wind and it heads off here. And if I looked, I'd be like, whoa, look where I'm headed. That's not where I want to go. And then you tack. And then you go, okay, now I'm going here. Whoops, that's not where I want to go. And then you tack. And that's really going from, I'm really on it, goal-oriented, set, action, willpower, thy will be done. Help me out. May this or something better become manifest. I'm leaving it all to you. Like, okay, you know. And I know for myself, like when I have what I call my come to Jesus moments where I'm on my knees going, okay, Lord, what do I do next? What would you, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I always hear two very difficult words that I always say the worst words God can say to me. Be happy. I'm like, oh no, it's back on me again. You know, God just wants me to be happy. Oh no, be happy. Then I have to choose. What do I want to create? What do I want to do? What do I find exciting? What am I going to wake up for? What am I going to put, you know, time, money, energy into? Thy will be done, Lord. None of it means anything. I'm completely non-attached, you know, non-attached to the fruits of the actions. So it's schizophrenic is what it is. It's a lot to hold those two. So that's where we left off. And that was what was behind us. So now, he talks about thorough knowledge. That's again Mukunda's interpretation. He has taken, it's called vidya, okay? Vidya means knowing, not from the mind, okay? Vidya means, again, to be in a state of knowing, which isn't mental. So it's like, what is this state of knowing that we're looking for? And it says, thorough knowing, vidya, is accompanied by, and I love this word, inquiry. Thorough knowing, vidya, knowledge, all knowledge is accompanied by inquiry. And I always, at Kripalu, we used to have all our programs were what we had termed inquiry-based learning. Okay, so inquiry-based learning is very different than what we got in school. In school, it's right-wrong. It's the right-wrong game. It's the pass-fail. As a matter of fact, you're going to go, here's the assignment. We already know you're going to go out and you're going to look for this. This is the right answer. You got to get it. That's not inquiry-based learning. Inquiry-based learning is, I'm in a question and I don't know what the answers are. I'm going to go out into trial and error, into explorer mode, and I'm going to see what's going to happen. Okay, so explorer mode and inquiry-based learning are very similar. It's really interesting because earlier today I was driving in the car and I have NPR on, and there was, if anybody heard this today, a piece on education, and they were talking about, they were talking about when education in the United States, how it even came about. In the 1800s, people decided that it was good to educate people together. And they were talking about the amount of time that there's a term now called explorer mode. And they were talking about the amount of time now that kids in school are actually in explorer mode. And it's 4% of the time. Can you believe that? 4% of the time in explorer mode in school. That's not great, because they were talking about the brain, and what learning really is being in explorer mode, okay? And so inquiry-based learning is explorer mode, being awake, being in the questions, not the answers, okay? And the mind loves an answer. The mind doesn't really like to be in the unknown in a question. It's the mind's job to say, label it, label it, label it. What disease do you have? We don't even care. Just give it a label. We love the label. Great. Oh, I've got, you've got a rash. Oh, call it, scabies rattle. You're like, hey, it's labeled. Now we know, but we don't know how to treat it, but it's got a label. Great. Now I know what I have, and it's great. And the mind is, good. So we love labels. So inquiry-based learning is stay out of the labels. Be in not knowing. And it's interesting that this thing of thorough knowing has a lot more to do with not knowing, okay, and staying in explorer mode and inquiry. Another form of thorough knowledge, so he's just giving some examples here. Another form of vidya is preceded by resolute practice. So you decide to really commit to completely cease identification with the contents of one's mind. Okay? So you're watching your thoughts. You begin to watch your thoughts. And again, this is the beginning of waking up. Most people are their thoughts. It's just that simple. That's how they define themselves. The thoughts that you're having, they're real. Oh my God, I thought this. Oh my God, I'm having thoughts of suicide. Oh my God, I'm having thoughts of grandiosity. Oh my God, I'm having thoughts. You know, it's like, oh, and we take them so seriously about the thoughts that we're having. It's like, oh, I had that thought. That was so, you know, they're thoughts. They're the vacillating waves of perception. They come, they go. They're not personal. And if you can begin to remove yourself from your thoughts and watch them and be curious about them, it starts a whole new relationship. Okay? And it's just the mind. So that concept of the mind is actually a very Eastern concept. And in the West, we take our minds very personally. I went to Harvard. I've worked hard on my beliefs. I've put them all together. I'm very clear about my personality and all my beliefs, and I've got it all put together, and I'm glad to discuss with you about me. You know, and it's like, well, those are just, you know, an interesting set of... Exactly, you got the certificate to prove it, you know. And they're just, you know, as I like to say too about the thoughts, and this is, as Kaki knows, who's studied Byron Katie's work a lot. So Byron Katie in her work, one of her first questions that she has when you're evaluating something going on in your world is it true? The second question is it really true? Third question is, how do you know it's true? What evidence do you have? You know, like, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? And ultimately, nothing you believe is true. There's not a single thought that you have that's true. So it's funny because when you start to really distance yourself from your thoughts, and then you start to look at your thoughts, and then you start to realize that no thought that you have actually has any truth to it at all, you know, then it really becomes less of something you want to identify yourself with. And it literally, as Patanjali, we will get to there in just a second, says, you then begin to create a new mind, a mind that is not associated with the identification with the thoughts. And it's a very different, like, so when we're talking about the ego is that put together thing. It does not want you to do this because guess what? As you disassociate from it, it loses its power. It dies. It literally dies. So the ego is not happy about you separating and from it. Feel free at any time to agree, disagree, add something, any thoughts, any input, any stories.
I just have a fun commentary on that. When I went to school at the Chopra Foundation, they taught us, they talk about the ego, and they say, everybody talks about, oh, this person has such a big ego, yada, yada. And the perspective that my teacher gave me is he's like, or I think it was Dr. Patel, she was saying, she's like, the ego isn't very big. The ego is very small. That's why it needs to be coddled and held and babied. And that's, I don't know, I just love that perspective of it. I'm like,
it's
yeah,
great.
The ego is just like, it's a little baby, it's just a little guy. Just demanding attention all the time.
I like that. That's great. Yep, the big ego, not so big at all.
Not so big
Yep,
at all.
yep. So, and again, he's going through several of these. Thorough knowledge, again, vidya, may arise from one's disposition at birth, as in the case of illumined souls, who experience their incorporeal state merged with nature. So it's possible that someone can be born, as we've seen and certainly in India, places where someone is born into divine nature because of previous births. Now that involves here the belief system that there are past lives, which is interesting. So, and I just want to take a side note on that. In A Course in Miracles, which I spoke about last month, there is at the end of A Course in Miracles this thing called the Teacher's Manual, which I really love. And I love the Teacher's Manual because it has questions and answers. Well, one of the questions that it has is reincarnation so? Okay? And I love the question, and I love the way that it answers it, which is any belief that that points to you're an infinite, eternal, whole being, is helpful. Okay? But the question is not whether it's true or not, whether there are past lives or not. That doesn't matter. One can certainly find enlightenment and attain enlightenment believing that there are past lives or believing that there are not past lives. So the belief is not necessary, in order to attain happiness, which I really like, because also I can apply that to any belief. There's no belief necessary that you need to have in order to attain enlightenment, because you're going to have to give them all up anyways, to get there. So I apply that to this. Now, I love the belief in past lives. I happen to believe that past lives are true. So I have conviction in the belief. I have a lot of experiences in my life that I can't really explain without the belief in past lives to explain it. So I really like it. But again, doesn't matter. If I get to the end and God says, Devarshi, you were wrong, that was your one life, I still say, I'm so glad I believed in past lives. It made it more fun, so I'm not disappointed, I got it wrong, on the list of having to believe things. So again, all of this is to just say, as we remove ourselves again from the power of these beliefs, okay, and see when the beliefs are really powerful for us, then actually we got to go, I'm pretty identified with this belief. I got to start to disassociate some from it, because the identification with it is actually can create attachment. It's a form of attachment, and thinking, I have the truth. I have the truth. This belief and the truth somehow go together. Past lives are true, and you must believe it. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. It's like, I don't know. Still don't know. I'll find out when we cross over. Vidya may arise at the dispositions of one birth. For others who are not born with vidya, being absorbed in spirit is preceded by faith. Okay, so you've got to have faith. Okay, what does that mean? And I love this. What is faith? We have to have some idea, like ours, the mind can't grab this. We don't know what we don't know. Okay? We don't know what we don't know. But the moment you say that, it's like, I got an idea about what I don't know. But the truth is, we don't know what we don't know. So when we go out into the realm of what we really, truly don't know, it requires an essence of faith. It also requires inquiry. It also requires explorer mode. But it does require great faith to step out into the unknown and say, I'm heading out into the unknown with great faith. And big questions. So I love that is number one, faith. Number two, indomitable vigor. Okay, it's not like you got to have this isn't for the lighthearted. You got to have some real earnestness towards this. And a mindfulness that's always concerned with the wisdom of oneness. So you got to have some set goal here. You got to truly have the faith and the belief that oneness, that enlightenment, that yoga, union is a possibility. And if you didn't believe that, then there's nothing really that moves you. Often, as many of you know, I taught yoga and mindfulness in a drug and alcohol rehab center for 6 years right before coming here. Some of my all-time favorite work, and really got to apply yogic principles and practices of all different kinds to the clientele there. And what was lovely was most people were there for a minimum of 3 months. So it wasn't just a light relationship. So we could really do ongoing work. But many people came in, and just at the core, it was an existential crisis, which is there was no evidence in their life of anyone that was happy. There was no evidence of anything but pain and trauma. There was no, abusive parents, drug addicted parent, violence in their life. No hope, and then to even say to somebody, but don't you want to get enlightened or don't you want to be happy? It's like, fuck you. You know, I'm like you think that's possible? Like, how is that? And they would look at me and go, like, faker. You know, must totally be faking. From their reality, it's like, it's not possible. You can't really be that you can't be that happy. You know, like, it's not possible. So it's interesting what it takes to have that. You know, you have to believe, you have to have the faith and believe that oneness is possible. You have to have the vigor to say, I'm going for that as a goal. I'm going to put my energy and attention on it. That will get you through the practices and have faith. So in here, one of my favorite quotes, he says, practice. So the word, because it always comes down to practice till the day we die. Practice is constant struggle over long periods of time with great faith in God. Continuous struggle over long periods of time with great faith in God. So, and I lived for, all during the 80s, I lived for 9.5 years in a yoga ashram. And we were dedicated to a celibate, renunciate lifestyle, practicing yoga from early morning till night, seva, you know, selfless service, and, you know, asana, pranayama, meditation, mantra, kirtans, everything. And around like-minded people who were dedicated to it. And all of us were fervent about our goals of enlightenment, competing even, you know, which is, of course, you know, the thing to do. You know, obviously the ego was involved in that. But it's something to be surrounded by people and in a like-minded community of people who hold a similar fervency towards a goal. Because when you fall off the path, they can help, you know, spur you on. It also has some downsides to it of group think. And yes, it was a cult, and I loved it. For those who have an intense urge for spirit and wisdom, it sits near them waiting. For those who have an urge of varying degrees, mild, moderate, or intense, due to their differences, there also arises distinctions in their sense of closeness to spirit. And then it says this, the end of all spiritual practice, when, you know, the end, if there is such a thing, to all spiritual practice is attained only by placing oneself in the Atman, the all that is. So that's the experience that we're looking for. So the Lord, okay, God, is a distinct self, untouched by any form of affliction, by karma and its effects, or by the latent impressions of past actions. Now, I'm just going to break that down a second. Latent impressions of past actions are what are called samskaras. All of our samskaras together make up our karma. Okay, our individual karmas are samskaras. They're latent impressions. Okay. So it says here that the Lord is untouched by any of those, has no karma and no effects from the samskaras. In that self is the unsurpassed source of omniscience. Now we can't, again, the mind can't really grab words like omniscient. It can't grab, so omniscient is all-knowing, omnipresent, omnipotent, eternal, infinite. Like these are not, like the mind can't get those. Like we can talk about them, and again we label it infinite, and we labeled the word infinite, and now it becomes finite, and we're talking about the infinite, but we've made the infinite very finite, because the infinite, if we were to grab it, like it's an experience. It doesn't end. It's not held in the mind. It's an experience. So label it infinite, and now it's like it's this big. So that's where we're going. Is like, wow, you begin to get the power of these words. Talking about infinity is very different than experiencing infinity. And what yoga is about is it wants to get you out of, a long time ago there was a teacher, Harry Palmer, and he used to talk about there are word experiences, and word experiences can be good, and then there are world experiences. What we're looking for is world experiences. World experiences is the realm of inquiry and explorer and, being in the question. Word experiences, any good word experience is only telling somebody about a great world experience. Okay? Other than that, it's just a bunch of words. And a good word experience will help point a person to have their own world experience. Then it says here, that self is also unlimited to time and is the guru of the most ancient spiritual teachers. So the Sadguru, any real guru, is actually doing nothing more than trying to light up the Sadguru within you. Sadguru means the truth of the real teacher. So any real teacher is trying to is lit up themselves with the Sadguru and trying to light up the Sadguru in someone else. Not trying to say, oh, I'm your guru, me. It's like you're G-U-R-U. That's really how you spell guru, G-U-R-U. And so it's pointing it back to yourself. Again, going to the Vijnanamaya Kosha, waking up witness consciousness inside the self, that is the Sadguru. The witness consciousness is where the light is on. The witness consciousness is the one who says, I'm going to choose to have this thought. I noticed that I just had this thought and I'd like to change that to this thought. I noticed that I'm having this experience and I'd like to change that to this experience. I just, in my mind, thought of one of the lessons of A Course in Miracles, which I really like, which goes like this. I could see peace instead of this. And that can be applied at all times, no matter what is going on. And you say to yourself, I could see peace instead of this. So it's like, wow, I sit with friends who are all whipped up, and Trump did this, and this did that, and this and that. And it's like, I could see peace instead of this. Like, is God not in charge? Are we not happening? Like, is the gecko worried right now about anything? Are the birds that are singing worried about anything? I could see peace instead of this. So, I do love that. I just want to take a side note, which is, how many people would love world peace? Just out of curiosity. I mean, we all believe that we would love world peace. And yet, how do we think that's going to happen?
Unity consciousness.
Huh? Say again?
Wave of unity consciousness.
A wave of unity consciousness. That would be nice, yes. I mean, it's going to happen because we're at peace. And suddenly, all of us start to get at peace, right? So if we want world peace, we have to be at peace. Yogi Desai used to say, the forest will be green when every tree in it is green. So like your responsibility is be at peace. Lots of people think, I won't be at peace until the world is at peace. But actually, real peace is you can be at peace no matter all this chaos is going on, and you can be at peace. And that's our real trick, is to actually be at peace, to create peace, in order to continue to help people go like, wow, if we want world peace, let's all be peaceful. Let's start being the peace that we want. And, and it's pretty interesting, again, the amount of people fighting for peace. And it's like, okay, you have fun with that. Let's see if it gets us there. Then it says this, the sound denoting the self is the eternal vibration Om, which manifests the grace of divine presence. By constantly repeating this sacred sound with great respect and love and reflecting upon its meaning, one attains spiritual wealth. From that practice arises the attainment of inward directed consciousness, and also the obstacles to success disappear. Okay, so one of our first real practices is given here. And it says chant the sound of Om a lot. Put your attention on the sound of Om. That's a pretty, it's like, whew. And the Om is the sound of Shiva. It's the sound of all sounds. Now, I know that many of you saw this. Anybody see when I did the drawing about Om on water? I know Preeti has, I believe. So this is fascinating. So the sound of Om, O-U-M, I mean, many of you have seen things like cymatics and, vibration and how everything is vibration, right? So we all know that everything is vibration. There is a YouTube video that I love, so let's say this is the surface of water, okay? And when Om is chanted, so what they did was they had Om vibrating, and there's a surface of water. The first thing that happens when Om happens is the water starts to percolate, like it's vibrating, and then all of a sudden a ridge appears, and a circle appears. This sort of it finds a circle. So look at that. Oh, okay. In a circle, the mathematical formula of this outside of the circle is pi. It never ends. Okay, so this is infinity. A circle is sacred geometry. And a circle, the moment a circle appears, it now suddenly defines things too. It's like a label. There's outside the circle, there's inside the circle. Now we have something. Okay, out of nothing comes something. Om. But then what happens is it starts to spiral in on itself, like when like a whirlpool, like you flushed a toilet, and it starts to spiral in like it's being flushed, and then it divides like a cell, and it starts to do this, and then these circle. Okay, so it goes. Yeah, I got it wrong. Okay, and then this ridge here lifts up, and this is in a continual state of going. So, anybody recognize this symbol? So it is the yin-yang symbol. So this symbol shows up in crop circles. It's an ancient sacred geometrical symbol. It's the symbol of duality. It's the symbol of creation. It's the symbol of all that is. So when the sound of Om, this isn't just like some thing. This is a healing vibration. When we chant Om, it's not like, oh, I'm so new age, Om. It's like this vibration, when we chant it, is putting all of our cells back into harmony. It is shaking loose all of those subliminal impressions that are clogging things up. So to sit in this vibration is totally, totally healing. So in the ashram we used to do many crazy things, but I slept for years to an endless loop tape of the chanting of Om just all night long, in my room. So, but again, that's so cool. That's just awesome. How did these yogis tap into this? That this essence sound is right there. They saw this stuff. This is science, and science is now, proving it and putting it together. So it gives us that practice, chant Om. And if you want to have a clearing, if you feel like your head is really wrapped up in something, it's a form of meditation. It's like, I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to chant Om, I'm going to bathe myself in this vibration to just, come back to balance.
Question.
Yes.
Would you be able to explain the difference, if there is any, in the way sometimes it's O-U-M and sometimes it's A-U-M?
Mm-hmm.
The Buddhist monks normally go with an Aum.
Yes. I'm going to take a little detour and give us an experience of that, okay? So many of you have seen or heard about the chakras, right? So we have 7 different energy centers. So again, tapping into what the yogis tapped into. It's like, wow, they tapped into these 7 different energy centers. Anybody know what a caduceus is or not know what the caduceus is? So a caduceus is, you've all seen it. It is the symbol of medicine. It's a stick, basically, and at the top is a lotus, and then there's 2 snakes that go down like this. Like that. You've seen it, right? And it's on every medical anything. That's the caduceus. This is an ancient symbol of medicine, okay? It's actually an Ayurvedic symbol, okay? And this crosses, these two snakes cross each other 7 times. The top is the crown chakra, okay? So these 7 places in our body each have glands associated with it: pituitary, pineal, adrenals, gonads. You know, I mean, like we have the yogis tapped into, like, wow, it's all about the endocrine system. And the wandering nerve, the vagus nerve, goes down the body like a snake, and the vagus nerve taps into all of that endocrine system. So when our chakras are out of balance and our endocrine system is out of balance, we're out of balance, and there's energies to each one of those centers, okay? So if you've seen, and many of you have seen the you know, symbol of like the yogi sitting in meditation, and then you've seen the 7 chakras like that, right? The diagram of the guy seated. Well, inside each chakra has a mandala to it, sacred geometry for it. And inside, at the very center of each of those mandalas, there's a Sanskrit symbol with a bij mantra, a seed mantra, the bij mantras, B-I-J-A, seed mantras, okay? So the bij mantras are a great way to learn how to chant Om. These 7, well, actually 6 sounds are really universal sounds, and this Sanskrit actually is based in the binary code. The binary code is what makes up computers. It's based in again, this universal science, which is really weird that they could tap into that rather than it just got created out of nowhere. So we're going to play with the 6 seed sounds because it ends up with Om, and it teaches us how to actually chant Om. So we're now going to chant with the first chakra. First chakra is Lam, okay? I'm going to go like this. And we're down here at the root chakra, and it's Lam. It could be L-A-M or L-U-M. The importance here is you're going to play with the vibration. So we're going to stick with the consonant and feel what the consonant does. So the consonant is going to be, you're going to go like this. Lam. And just feel the vibration of the L. Lam. 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 Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question. It's pretty hard because we're at the first one and you don't have anything to relate it to, but where is the vibration coming from in this? Imagine your mouth as an instrument, a cathedral here. And where is the vibration of the L coming from? I'm going to help you out with this one because it'll make sense as we go along. Your tongue has to sit on the bottom of your mouth, and then it just sort of falls out. It's all, now listen to this, lower. Okay, so words, lower, L, lum. And it's like your tongue sits with the vibration of the L, and then it drops out. So just do that a couple more times. Lum. Lam. 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 All right, now we're going up to the second chakra. Va 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 boom. Vam. Va 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 boom. Second chakra. Okay, so now we're going to hold the V. So it's vam. 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 So where's it coming from? So what's interesting, again, V's and F's, they're actually the same thing. Okay, the front of your mouth. Okay, so V. Okay, so we've gone lower, front. Okay, so now we're just going to go lam, vam, and just feel the difference. Lam, vam, lam, vam, lam, vam. Great. Now we're going on to the third chakra. Ram. Ram, 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 solar plexus, ram. So now hold the R. Ram. 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 So where is it coming from? The roof. Roof. So you have to form your tongue, but you're throwing the vibration. The sound comes on the roof of the mouth. So now we're going to go lower, front, roof. Lam, vam, ram, lam, vam, ram. Okay, do you feel that? You're moving around the mouth. Lam, vam, ram. Now we go on to the heart chakra. I'm going to make this one a U just for the fun of it. Yum. Yum. So this is the mantra of the heart chakra. Actually, place your hand on your heart too, because you'll feel the vibration of how saying the mantra actually is a heart opener just in and of itself. So, yum. 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 So, where's this coming from? You actually have to fatten your tongue. It's actually your two sides. It's like yum. You fatten it, and it's like so. Now we're going to go lum, vam, rum, yum. So bottom, front, top, sides. Here we go. Lum, vam, rum, yum. Lum, vam, rum, yum. Feel that? So we're moving around the mouth. Next one. Hum. 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 So it's coming from the back now. Okay, so we moved around the 6 sides of the possibility of making sounds. These 6 sounds make up all the sounds, or some variation thereof of them. So we're going to do all of them, these 5 sounds. So we're going to do all of them now. Lum, vam, rum, yum, hum. Lum, vam, rum, yum, hum. Lum, vam, rum, yum, hum. Okay, all right. So now we've got these, and now we're on to the next one. So this is first chakra, second chakra, third chakra, fourth chakra, fifth chakra, and now we're on the 6th chakra. Okay, which is the third eye. So this is a long way to get to the answer of this question about chanting of Om. But this sound contains all of these. So now that you've done all of these, you want to start in the back of your mouth, sort of with a and just come around and grab the ego and all of it. And you want to feel them all as you end with closing the mouth in the front. Okay? So close your eyes and just take in a breath and go. Again, do it again. Again. Okay, now we're going to get complicated here. Okay, there are actually mudras that go along with each chakra. So it goes like this. Lum. Okay, it's actually pretty easy. Lum, vam, rum, yum. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Lum, vam, rum, yum. Hum is you take your thumb over and touch the pad underneath your little finger. And then Om is this. Okay? But now we're going to match them up to the chakras. So you go Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum here and then Om up, and then the 7th chakra is silent. So that's where we're silent and we inhale. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om. Lam Vam Ram Yam Hum Om. Lam Vam Ram Yam Hum Om. Lam Vam Ram Yam Hum Om. So close your eyes and just tune in. So those vibrations balance each of those energy centers, set your endocrine system into balance. They create a harmonizing vibration. Leela, stop it. You stop it. You stop it. Go. Go. Leela, this is yoga. A chakra balancing. Yes, such a.
Some people teach it as, like I learned that the crown chakra sound is shown. Like through the chakra center, that's how they taught me. And I wonder, and then I teach Ayurveda and meditation out of school in Colorado Springs. And I was just teaching my students this, and I was trying to find a print off of them. And then there was one, what I was seeing is like shang was another sound for it. Do you know why that is?
I don't know why that is, but I would wager to say because it when it turns in even the sound shang, and it sounds like it's Tibetan. Yeah. So I bet that it's slanted off because a lot of the hu, ho, a lot of those mantras end up being Tibetan, which is different than Sanskrit. But their roots are in this.
Well, I thought it was interesting because you said it's silent, and both of the other ones that I saw start with sh, which makes me think sh.
Oh, That's good. That's funny. Yep. How are we doing time-wise? What's the 5:04? All right, we're going to go for a bit more. How are we doing? Great. Good.
Will you tell us what sutra we're on again?
Yes, right now that was all about Om, and I just got to say, I think it's interesting that he spends that much time on Om, meaning, number one, it's the first real practice that he says, do this practice. Practice Om incessantly, chant Om incessantly, and it can clear you of karma. It's like, whoa, okay? But how many of us really do that? Like, wow, there's this vibration out there that's healing. I'm convinced that when the time comes where, we have these healing chambers where it's like, oh, you go in, you get in, it's going to just chant Om. We're just going to get in there and it's going to, it'll be the major Om vibration. Like, so, we've got it. They said it, do it, chant it, play it all the time, have it going. There's great, really wonderful CDs out there and chants. Like if you go on Spotify and press in Endless Om or like Continual Om, you'll have really great ones.
On Instagram, there's a father that owns to his baby who just comes right out.
I love that. I love that. Yep. My dogs and kids knew that whenever healing would happen, I was always chanting mantra, and it was definitely a thing that calmed them down. So we are on 130. We're going to continue here. So it talks about a number of things. I'm going to actually just skip this part because it tells us what the obstacles to self-knowledge are. Great. And the different kinds of distractions. Great. But then it says here, in order to prevent these obstacles from arising, you should habituate yourself to meditation upon a single principle. Okay? Now, a single principle. There's lots of single principles. It's like, which single principle? And even in the Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna, he says, okay, I got your God and everything, but which of your gazillion forms do you want me to focus on? How am I supposed to do that? So we're supposed to focus on a single principle. I put here because for me, I would say, I think it's the doorway always. Dirga Ujjayi breath is the foundational practice for creating witness consciousness. I love to say, because this is true for me, at the beginning of yoga practice, Dirga Ujjayi breath. At the end of yoga practice, Dirga Ujjayi breath. As we're crossing out, or crossing over and out of this plane, most of us will experience the experience of suffocation. Because if you've ever been with anybody who's passing away, the body begins to shut down. First, the Annamaya kosha, the body shuts down, different organs go, but things stop working, heart stops. Next, the prana Maya kosha starts to go down. So the death rattle, where people are gasping for breath. If you have, and this is, in many yogic practices, they say if you want to have a peaceful death, a lot of yoga practices are designed to have a peaceful death, because actually all that we're overcoming here is the fear of death. And when you get to that point of death, you get to know whether your practice really worked or not. Are you afraid about what's happening? Are you like, I'm dying, I can't breathe? Or are you like, I am seated in my Dirga Ujjayi breath? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story. When my father was passing away, he was drowning in his own lungs, and the fluid just kept filling out and filling up, and it was difficult. He was like, this dying thing is really tough, but hey, there's a way out for everybody. You never know what it's going to be like. So he fell within a short time. Me and my two brothers all ended up there at his bedside, which was really great. We were having this experience, and my brothers were driving me nuts because my dad is gasping for breath and he's dying, and this is the moment. And it was like I wanted to do my best to have him try and find a state of peacefulness, not associated with the terror of trying to grasp a breath. In the meanwhile, my one brother is like commenting about what he's reading in the paper, and my other brother is commenting about how my dad, every time he had to cough, he'd press the clicker on the bed and rise himself up and cough, and then he'd press himself down, and he's like, look at him, even in the very last minute, he can't let go of control. And I'd be like, he can hear you, so very happy because my one brother says, I'm going to go get some lunch. And my other brother said, I've called the minister and he's coming and I'm going to go get him. So they both leave. Thank God. I'm finally with my dad, and I said, Dad, this, and we had talked about it before, but I said, this is the moment. There's going to have to be a moment when you exhale and you choose not to take another inhalation. And you associate with yourself beyond all of this, and you just stay there. And with that, he exhaled, and he never breathed in again. And I said, you're doing it. I'm right here. You got it. Stay right there. Stay right there, Dad. Just look for Mom. Look for God. Follow the light. Just stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Then my brother walks in, what's going on? I'm like, shh, like he didn't breathe in, didn't breathe in, didn't breathe in, didn't breathe in. Then my other brother comes in, minister's here, he wants to say hi. I'm like, shh, didn't breathe in, didn't breathe in. And he just passed away. It was like perfection. And then the minister came in and it was like, couldn't have been better. It's like, okay, wow. Takes his last breath, minister comes in, it was really quite lovely. It was a really powerful experience because I knew that he heard me, and I knew that he was with me and hearing me, even though his breath had stopped, his lungs had stopped, he was still there. And in yoga they talk about, again, body's gone, done, the breath body then is done, but the mental body's still there hearing everything. Witness consciousness is still there. It takes a while. You can feel it, like when they're still there, and then there comes a time where it feels like, oh God, they're the bird on the windowsill, or they're the wind that just came through. They're no longer, here. The evaporation process has taken place. So that's a cool story. Yeah. So lambam ramyam ham om.
How do you do that Dirga Ujjayi breath?
Dirga Ujjayi breath, thank you. Because I was just asking myself, where was I? And so the Dirga Ujjayi breath is conscious breathing. And Dirga means 3-part breath. So you breathe into your belly, your ribs, your chest. So you're getting the full breath rather than some habitual, some of us are belly breathers, some of us are chest breathers. You want to get the whole breath, a full, long, starting with the belly, filling it up, going all the way up to the clavicles, and then it empties from the top down. So the chest descends, the ribs fall in, the belly empties. So that's Dirga breath, okay, the 3-part breath. Then you layer on Ujjayi breath, ocean-sounding breath, and that's with the slight constriction in the back of the throat. What that does is it slows the breath down, so you now have to take a slower inhalation because you're restricting the passageways, but also it stimulates the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is that wandering nerve that's the Kundalini energy that goes through your whole endocrine system, the rest and digest nerve. And so that's like the beginning of a snore. So it's hard to hear. Maybe this will help. So it's like this. I forgot this wasn't hooked up to like a mic. If I was teaching yoga, you would. I don't need to do that. That didn't help you, did it? Those poor people are listening are like, he's snotting on the mic. Okay, we'll do that again. So. Now here's the there's so many cool things about Dirga Ujjayi breath. Dirga Ujjayi breath, no matter what situation is going on, if you're in some form of reaction, Dirga Ujjayi breath. If you're sitting waiting, Dirga Ujjayi breath. If you're feeling anxious, Dirga Ujjayi breath. If you can't get out of your head for some reason, Dirga Ujjayi breath. It is the thing that puts you in be here now, be in the present moment. Your breath is always happening right now. If your attention is on the breath, your attention comes right into the focus of the present moment. Because I am breathing in now, I am breathing out now. It's right here. So you enter into the doorway of presence through a conscious breath. So that's one thing. And as many of you have heard before, your diaphragm is one of the few muscles that's smooth and striated. So striated muscles come from your conscious brain. Smooth muscles come from your reptilian brain. So the diaphragm in your breath is both smooth and striated, which is very unusual. One of the few places that is both, so you don't have to think about your breath at all, and you still breathe. You go to bed at night, you're not thinking about breathing. But if you want to, inhale, take a breath in now, and hold it. Count to 3. And exhale. So you just decided how you wanted to breathe. Your striated muscles overrode your smooth muscles, meaning your conscious brain overrode your unconscious brain. So again, going back to recovery, so many of these people in addiction, they had problems with reaction. They reacted constantly. They were in constant reaction, which is what happens when people have trauma. And as we know, many people who do drugs and alcohol are really self-medicating because they can't deal with the trauma that's inside. So the real issue is the trauma and trying to how to find a state of peace. Well, when you teach someone Dirga Ujjayi breath, it puts in the pause button. I could react. I want to hit them in the face, but I'm going to pause, breathe, and decide how I want to respond, which is very different than react, okay? And in order to choose not to drink, which would be a reaction, it's like I have to decide to not do that. So this literally hooks up a whole different, dendrites in the brain, of making that choice and of causing the pause button and of creating consciousness. That's why I say, beginning, Dirga Ujjayi breath, end, Dirga Ujjayi breath, because also, when you first start, it's like, okay, how deep, how slow, but years of incessant practice, it's like, okay, wow, sit for 4 hours, many, 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 many days in a row, and breathe to the top, and gentle hold and breathe to the bottom, and notice when your mind wanders and bring it back, and do it again, and stay on the fire of the presence of the breath and watch what purifies, okay? Because stuff purifies. All the things that keep us out of the present moment get burned in the fire of that Dirga Ujjayi breath. But not only that, then further down the road, it's like states of ecstasy with all that is get attained by simply breathing in and out deliberately. So again, at the beginning of practice, it's like, am I doing this right? Are the things loud? Oh, I've got a cold. Other things, this is difficult. And, and it just goes all along the way. That's why practice. I think we're going to stop there. Yes?
Before we stop, can you repeat the kosha, please? There was the Maya, the Ananda, the Prana.
Yes.
Two others.
Body is Ana, A-N-N-A, or A-N-A, Ana Maya Kosha. Then there's the Prana Maya Kosha. Then there's the Mano, M-A-N-O, Mano Maya Kosha. Then there's the Vijnana Maya Kosha, V-I-J-N-A-N-A, Vijnana Maya Kosha. And then there's the Ananda Maya Kosha. Yeah. Yep.
Another question.
Yes.
What do you actually focus on during the yoga?
The Dirga Ujjayi breath?
Breath?
Great question. There's so many things to focus on. So as it starts to get more subtle, there's so many things to focus on. One of the things Swami Kripalu used to say is, imagine that there is a feather underneath your nose, the lightest little, like the baby feathers, and you don't want to disturb it at all. So in order to breathe in, it has to be so slow and so smooth and so present so that that feather doesn't move at all on the way in and on the way out. So it's like this purifying how slow and present you can make your inhalation and exhalation. So that's one thing. How long can you make it? How long can you, like that's make it. I mean, when you're practicing, and again, sometimes in meditation yoga, you decide we would come in after asana practice, we'd come in and sit down at 6:30 or 7, and we would sit in meditation till 11, in Dirga Ujjayi breath. Well, you got to come up with shit when you're when you're sitting there. What am I going to do now? So it's like, okay, how loud can I make my Ujjayi breath? How calm? How silent can I make my Ujjayi breath? I mean, there's so many things to experiment with, but it all creates presence. It all creates. You watch your mind. Oh, there I am. I wandered off. Not doing the breath at all. I'm thinking about breakfast. Oops, come back to the breath. Like we're still going. Okay. And that's where the purification happens, is just by continuing and continuing and continuing. So for me, and this, if I have trouble sleeping, and so Dirga Ujjayi breath is the best thing. If you wake up and you have trouble sleeping, Dirga Ujjayi breath. And I make up in my mind, if I wake up, Swami Kripalu has woken me up, and he's saying, Devarshi, you need to do Dirga Ujjayi breath, sadhana time. I want you to do it all night long. Okay, you're not going to sleep, you're going to do it all night long. And then I fall into Dirga Ujjayi breath. Generally, I'm 5 minutes in, and at some point I just cross over. But if I do, and I've had many nights where I've done Dirga Ujjayi breath all night long. And in the end of the morning, when morning time comes, I'm as good as if I've slept fully, and not only that, I feel happy that I'm like, wow, I just did 5 hours of Dirga Ujjayi breath. Who's got the time to do that? I only get the time to do it during the nighttime when everybody's sleeping, so I feel great about that.
Can you do it lying down then as well? Or you should,
Yep. That's the fun thing too. You can do it anywhere, all the time. You don't need anything. It's right here within us. And the benefits are, exceptional. They hit all of the chakras. They place things back into balance. They create witness consciousness. They create presence. They put you in charge of your attention. They purify impurities. Like, good.
I want to come back to the Aum and the Om,
Mm-hmm.
because you started with the Om as like the all-encompassing, but when we then did the exercise, we didn't do any sound, so I'm a bit left.
Well, we did
confused,
Lam Vam Ram Yam Hum Om, and then, so we did that, and then we did the silence at the end on the inhale.
Because I think the question here, and I had the same question before she asked it, it's this ow versus the what's the
Well, you're really just playing. I mean, you're playing with getting all of the sounds, the full cathedral of the mouth. You just want that vibration to come from the whole thing, you know, and it melds. Whether it's a, whether it's a U, whether it's a thing, you know, just get the whole thing.
okay,
You know.
so the is the it's just a bit more.
Yep, you're just getting the whole thing. And at the beginning of the, there is a gentle, you know, like, but it can be silent. But it's like it grabs the whole thing because you do start your back here. The it starts in the back. Just want to get all the sounds. Satya?
I just have one comment on you on like speaking of the breath and like using it in recovery and stuff. I think it's really interesting because this is like from a spiritual standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint, absolutely no spiritual backing. Like my therapist is wonderful, but she's not a spiritual person. And when she taught me about the trauma brain, which is when you experience like elongated periods of trauma, your amygdala grows and your hippocampus, so the front of your brain is growing, your hippocampus in the back is shrinking. And so there's not like a good correspondence and things just aren't making it back to the hippocampus. But what she taught me to grow my amygdala or to grow my hippocampus is she was like, just do breaths, like breath work. You do inhale for 3, like she taught me like conscious breathing. I mean, I knew conscious breathing, but that was like the practice that she prescribed for it from a psychological standpoint. And I just think that's
So great.
because like you don't even have to have any spiritual backing or correlation.
Well, that's recent, just so you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what's so great about, you know, yogic practice is being substantiated scientifically at this point, which is a really great thing. And that's been happening in the past couple decades.
Just to add on to that too, I did hear that the military is also now incorporating like box breathing and things like that into their practice, and so
Love it.
it's reaching out its fields into other things, and they might be utilizing it from a completely different standpoint, but it's beautiful.
And they surprisingly have been for a while. I actually just met somebody recently who hasn't been in the Army for like, I think 13 years, and he learned yoga in the military and is now a hatha yoga teacher.
No, I love that.
Yeah, it's very, I was like, wow, what a cool like way to turn that into something so beautiful afterwards.
And now in hospitals, they have these machines that they put on people's throats to vibrate when they're anxious, which stimulate the vagus nerve rather than, you know, but you can do Dirga Ujjayi breath. I actually just saw one on Instagram. I would have gotten it, but it was way too expensive. And it just clamps around the neck and it puts 2 little vibrators right here and stimulates the vagus nerve.
Interesting. They have like ear things you can do. I work with special needs, and they have like little ear pods you can put in that do the same thing. They like stimulate, or I don't think they're ear pods. I think they clip onto your ear if I remember
Cool.
correctly. But it stimulates your vagus nerve.
The pulsetto. I just remembered the name. Look it up if you want. A pulsetto. Yeah.
The free version.
You'll take the free, I know, exactly. It was like $260, so I was like, I think I'll skip that. I think I'll just breathe. Exactly. All right, anything else before we close? Thank you so much for your attention time. So next month we'll start up again. Bring a friend, come, enjoy. Thank you. Yep.
One more question. You said your YouTube channel, just look up Hanuman Maui and then your name.
If you type in Devarshi Stephen Hartman, it's on my channel, but Hanuman Maui Patanjali Sutras,
Is this exact?
it'll come up.
I'm sure
It'll say number 1, and then yeah, and then there's probably
Can
like 6 others from here.
Can I photograph your first